morning. Welcome, everybody. We are going to get going because we do have a strict time limit to follow. Thank you for coming. Welcome back. January is exciting, although as we were just saying, we're halfway done with January, which is great since it doesn't seem to be the most popular month. So we have a lot to cover today. We have a lot of, some teachers and department heads are coming, director of counseling, so we're going to have a lot of information. It is being recorded in case you don't catch everything. If you everybody at some point can just sign in so we can kind of get a sense of who's here. You will find agendas and then meeting minutes on the tables. We are going to do a brief PTSO business right now. So I think our first item would be to look at the December meeting minutes, which actually was the Boston meeting, the METCO meeting in Boston that some people came out and attended, which was great. So if you wanted to take a quick peek so we can look at approving those minutes. Anybody has questions? Edits? Anything? All right.
If nothing, I'll make a motion to approve the December 3rd minutes. Okay. I'll second it. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Jen will give us a brief treasurer update.
Hi, everybody. So we are humming along as far as our normal activities, things around faculty appreciation, and we have a few speakers. We had Kate Gladden, and then Katie Greer coming. So those are some of the bigger expenditures, and then we've had just the normal kind of business operations. As far as our donations are concerned, I'm going to give my plug. We are still quite a bit behind. We have almost at 20% of families participating in donating. So if you can donate, that would be great. Tell your friends. There's a lot of good things that the PTO does, but we need the donations to make it all happen throughout the course of the year.
Can I ask a question? What's the annual participation rate by families, and how does this compare like year over year?
So I was actually just looking at it, and we are generally between 20 and 30%, but not really high. I noticed that this year, this gets into the weeds a little bit, that our donation per family dollar amount is a little lower than it has been. We're at about 200 versus 250. The ask is 200 per student, and then if you have multiple students, 300.
Yeah.
But really, any amount is helpful,
Yeah.
so that's kind of arbitrary. But much lower participation at the high school level than, say, at the elementary school level.
It's pretty true historically,
pretty, yeah.
like for the last 25 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this is not an aberration, but we're still
Maybe the amount
lower,
part,
or-
like
Yeah.
you know better, Jen, from looking at the numbers, but in terms of the percentage of participants, it's not. We'd love to change that, but.
All right, so you'll probably see pushes from us continuing in the weekly updates and maybe even sort of independent emails still asking to try to catch people who still have it on their to-do list and haven't done it yet. So we can hopefully continue to go through grant requests and be able to actually support some of these initiatives. Thank you. Okay, Jamie, updates.
Hi, I don't see any departments here, so I'll be long. Oh, she walked in the door. I won't be long, I'll be sort of quick. The three things that I want to talk about, all technology related, tech right now, is very much on my mind. One, of course, you know about the Power School breach, I wrote about it last week, I told you sent a couple notes out. Two things I want to say about that. One is continue to check the page. Our tech department is updating it, if any updates that we have, if there's anything that Power School tells us about the data. And then the second thing, obviously related, is I just want, I've said this in other spaces, but I'll say it here, I see some new faces. When you're hearing things on the news, if you hear things on the news, be careful to assume that that all applies to Wellesley. We had very specific data breach. We went through with a fine-tooth comb to see what fields were breached here and what were not. We also, not every school district uses Power School the same way. We do not use it, and you should know this, that to collect any money. So there's no financial information on PowerSchool, so none was compromised. We also don't collect social security numbers, so then your children's social security numbers would be in PowerSchool. So that was not compromised as well. But if you're not sure, like, well, what else? Take a look at that document. It's very specific about what fields we are aware of, and our tech department says confident they can tell which ones were reached and which were not. So if there are updates, it'll show up on that page, so check back on that. I know it's a scary thing. And so some of the questions that people have asked me are, should I be watching my child's credit reports or things like that? I'm not an expert in this thing, but I guess what I would say is it's always good in this time to be really careful and be skeptical if you get a strange text or email, and I'm sure you already are. Stay skeptical, I would say, and be sure about things. Do what you think you need to do to keep your family safe. But from the information I have, I don't know that there's any risk of that. But that's hard for me to say with 100% surety, of course. So I would never tell anybody not to be vigilant. So that's that. The cell phone committee, if you're not sure what that is, there's a district superintendent's task force looking at cell phone policy. So we're continuing to do that work. We've done some work listening to our students, some student focus groups at the middle and high school level. We've surveyed our staff. We have invited other towns to come in and tell us what they're doing. We had about 7 or 8 towns at the last meeting. Representatives from them come and talk to us about what they're up to, and we're starting to formulate what we're up to too. There's about 30 people on the task force, K through 12, and parent representatives, students, staff, administration across the board. So we're planning to run through the year and hopefully have something at the end of the year about what we sort of learned and decided to do moving forward. Parallel to that, the high school council, which is also representative students, parents, faculty, took that topic up on their own before the school year started. We sort of brainstormed what we wanted to talk about this year. Cell phones is a hot topic, and so we talk about it there. And so we do not in any way at the school council want to undercut what the task force is up to. So the plan at the school council is to develop a statement of what that group would like to see, just to add to the data set that the task force is looking at from a representative body. So they wanted to weigh in, so to speak. So that's what that group is up to. They're not home on what they want yet, but we're congealing around ideals, I guess, at the moment for that. And then the third update I want to give you is that a lot of conversation with faculty around AI right now, and there's desire in a couple of different directions among staff. One is around there are tools being developed to try to capture when AI is being used. Those are not that effective, but there's some interest in us, exploring how they could be helpful to us. There's also some tools out there that would help us lock down browsers when kids are working on their machines, so that we know that they're not flipping tabs back and forth and pulling stuff from AI and cut and pasting things. So there's a group in the English department that's going to pilot this program called Respondas. So we'll be sending letters out to families about that, but that's what Respondas does. It sort of locks the browser in school only, not at home. We're not going to big brother you from afar. We just want to do it while the kid's in class. You might ask, why don't you just give them a pen and paper? And the answer to that is we will and have given kids pen and paper to write. A couple of things. There are students with IEPs that require that they use a machine. And then there's really some challenges around, and you know this because you have teenagers, reading teenagers' handwriting. They don't write by hand. And like, my handwriting's not good, but their handwriting is worse. So it's been challenging, and they're slower, and they just don't do this, so like they're not developed in that way. So that's why Respondus might be it meets them where they are in terms of this is how they write, but it doesn't allow them to flip screens to do it. So that's something we're trying out. And then something else that the teachers are asking for is for us to develop policy that's a little more specific and in some places instructive to kids so that they understand what is a bad use of AI, and because there are good uses of AI. And there are teachers, I want you to know, who are positively using AI with different assignments. So this isn't the forum, we've got a lot of stuff to cover here, but happy to talk about that at future meetings, but I just want to kind of put those things out there. A lot of technology talk at the high school right now in those 3 areas. So just give you that update of some of the things we're thinking about back here. So, as I was talking, Nora Wilkins.
I think Meg is going to go first.
Oh,
very
Nora
briefly,
Wilkins,
and then very briefly, sorry.
So that's Nora, and she'll get introduced in a minute because Meg, our director of school council, is going to talk first. Right. Sorry, thank you.
I am thrilled to kick off the course selection process. It means spring is coming. We'll see what the groundhog says on February 2nd, right? And we've kicked it off in seminars, the counselors already. So I actually had some of my 9th graders this morning. And so for our 9th grade students, we start talking about this in January, and we talk about it in 2 different classes. We get them thinking about it. The process takes a while, and it really goes throughout the spring for students. They're submitting in mid-March. At the February meeting, I'll talk more about specific dates. So the 9th graders are kind of wrapping up that initial phase right now. 10th and 11th are meeting quarter 3, so after next week. We will have students in seminar, and all the counselors will be going through the process with them and planning it out and going through our program of studies and thinking about what they might want to take. I'm excited this year. We've made a little bit of a change. For the last couple of years, we've had 10th graders quarter 4, and now we're going to meet with them in seminar quarter 3. Primarily, we just didn't want to wait as long in the year for a touch point collectively, and we wanted to time it with the course selection process. So if you have 10th graders at home, please ask them to check their schedules, and they will have seminar coming in after next week. And so we really map out for 10th graders, not only 11th grade year, but we also look at the 12th grade year and look at the sequencing. You'll hear a lot about that from department heads. We also, for our 8th to 9th, if anyone is watching this or here in this room and has an 8th grader, that process next Wednesday night is our 8th grade caregiver evening here at the high school. You'll hear a lot about curriculum, you'll hear a lot about process. Then the 8th graders come here in early February and they tour, and then the counselors actually go down to the middle school. We partner with the counselors there, and we talk with the kids even more about course selection, and they're having their meetings also at the middle school. So we feel like that process is well supported, but of course, these are big decisions. It's exciting. It can be nerve-wracking. So if you have questions, please reach out to any of the counselors here at the high school, or reach out to me, and we can help just navigate this process in a way that is also fun. Great. So thank you all. I'll turn it over to Nora Wilkins, Science Technology Department Head.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I put a stack together, so I'm just going to pop them on the tables. Thank you. It is, thank you.
One more plug that I forgot to make. I have a coffee with the Director of School Counseling in this room, I believe February 7th. And so always this time of year, the topic centers around course selection and those types of decisions. So please, if you have time that day or any questions, come on down.
Good morning, everyone. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Nora Wilkins, and I am the Science and Tech Engineering Department Head for the high school. What I just, and Colin helped me pass out also, is a handout that lists all of the course offerings for next year for the science department on one side, and then for the tech engineering department on the other side. And so what I would love to do today is just share with you the sort of an overall picture of the course sequence that we offer here in the science department, and then talk about when students will also have the opportunity to take some electives. if they are so interested in doing so, and then highlight too for you the tech engineering offerings as well. And so we have no new courses that we are offering for next year. So if you have heard, listened to, or been here before, probably much of what you see on the handout is the same as was last year. But when students arrive at Wellesley High School from the middle school, they enter into 9th grade science classes, which are primarily physics offerings. We offer those classes at all 3 levels, so honors, ACP, and CP. And then we have 2 other potential offerings for 9th grade students as well, which is a Foundations of Physics class that is also offered at the CP level. It is basically Physics CP broken up over 2 years. So the pacing is slower, that allows for students to have the repetition that they might need, while also providing that extra time to really make sure that the hands-on, tangible learning experiences can be incorporated into that learning experience as well. So that is a 2-year course that students typically enter in their 9th grade year, and then they would take the 2nd year of that course in their 10th grade year. The same is true for our conceptual biology class, which is, again, a 2-year course. It is offered to 9th graders, and then the 2nd year of the course is taken by those students when they are in 10th grade. So if you go into, if you're a student entering Wellesley High School and you go into Foundations of Physics or Conceptual Biology, Biochem, you will be in that course for 2 years. If you come into Wellesley High School and you enter Physics Honors, Physics ACP, or Physics CP, you would transition into a chemistry offering for sophomore year. Again, the chemistry courses are offered at all 3 levels. And then once you get through that 10th grade year, that's when elective opportunities start to open up for students. And so what students would be able to take in terms of science classes for junior year would be biology. So our core sequence is physics, chemistry, and biology. So the biology courses, again, are offered at all 3 levels, honors, ACP, and CP. There's also an opportunity in junior year to explore an environmental science semester elective, advanced placement environmental science, as well as advanced placement chemistry, and potentially advanced placement physics if the math prerequisite is met, which is AP calculus. And then advanced topics of physics is another course that is also open to juniors if they're interested. So most of our students take that physics, chemistry, biology sequence, and then if there's room in their schedule, some students might start to double up in their junior year and perhaps we definitely have some students take biology honors as a junior alongside AP chemistry or alongside environmental science as a semester elective. And then our senior program is really, as we call it, our senior elective program. All of these courses are technically considered elective, so they're definitely sort of capstone courses for each of the content areas that came before. And so the AP offerings that I already mentioned that are open to juniors are certainly open to seniors as well. AP Biology is an additional AP course offered, and that is seniors only. And then we also have anatomy and physiology offered, astronomy offered, engineering, physics offered as well. And so biotech, I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting any, biotech and personal genetics is another senior elective course that students have the opportunity to take. All of these are listed in the program of studies, and some do have specific prerequisites, so I encourage you to take a look at that link on the Wellesley High School homepage if you have questions. I also am here and happy to answer any questions you have today, but my contact information is on the back side of the sheet, and I'll send an electronic copy also so that you can post it as well in your newsletters and on your websites. Some things that I want to highlight for you is that I think this question comes up a lot, and I think it's a great question. If a student enters into an ACP level or a CP level as a 9th grader, that does not mean that they need to maintain that level throughout their high school career. We definitely have students moving between levels. So they may enter 9th grade saying, I want balance, I'm recognizing the transition of coming to the high school, and I get a lot, does this mean that they'll never have the opportunity to try an honors class? And the answer is no. We definitely have students move between levels in all years. We definitely see a pretty large movement of students trying to challenge themselves moving from sophomore to junior year too. Students will often take a leap at trying that next level for themselves if they feel like they've developed their student skills and they're having great success, and they want to try and challenge themselves a little bit more. So there is definitely opportunity to do that. Students do it often. You do not lock yourself into one level for your high school science career. That is science. And then very briefly, just on the back, these are tech engineering electives. These are offered on a quarter basis. The asterisk shows you that Intro to Tech Engineering is the prerequisite for all other engineering classes. The only exception to the quarter elective is the intensive robotics course that's offered. That's a semester elective that basically it needs either semester 1 or 2. Traditionally, it's been semester 1 as long as we have run it. So for both quarters 1 and 2. We did tweak the prerequisite for that course for next year. But what I want to highlight is that it requires that robotics be taken more than once before going into intensive, or instructor department head approval. What was happening since we started that class through student initiative, and we have many students that are coming to the high school with a pretty significant robotics experience and background, and students like that would come and take our Intro to Engineering class, they would take our robotics class, and then the following year they definitely would be candidates to take that intensive robotics course. It's for that tweak of taking robotics twice is just to ensure that if I'm new to the high school and new to robotics, I have enough exposure and experience to then be able to take my skills to the next level in intensive. And so that's why that ad was there. It's really for students who are exploring robotics for the first time when they come to Wellesley High School. But I think that was a question that had been out there. And so if your student has lots of experience with robotics and is coming in, they would just need to talk to myself or Professor Lovett, and we definitely could work with them to explore the option of getting into that course before taking robotics for 2 quarters. Any questions? Yes.
I may have missed this, but the conceptual biology, biochem,
Yes.
does that feed into, at some point, like, could you go from that to an honors bio or chem?
So that's a great question. So the conceptual biochem is, traditionally that course has been offered in partnership with our special education program and those students in particular in the skills program. And so initially that 2-year course was pretty much the 2-year science course that those students would have while at Wellesley High School. I will say that students absolutely have transitioned past that course. Oftentimes what they'll do to bridge will be in their junior year take bio-CP. And then definitely for senior year, some students have explored elective offerings at the ACP level. So I think that the typical projection would be probably to take a bio-CP in your junior year and then explore a higher level in senior year. Great question.
Can you tell us briefly, I know we're coming to the end of the time, but in anatomy, my
Yes.
senior is taking anatomy this year. Can you, I forget the name of it, but that phenomenal machine that they have been using, that the grant was done, yeah. Can
Yes.
you tell us about that, please?
That-
is incredible. Yeah, she loves
Yes.
it, yeah.
Anatomy and physiology.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So
Thank you,
Dr.
WEF, by the way.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it was a wet grant.
Dr. Robin is the teacher of that course, and he wrote a very generous WEF grant last year for that table. It was over $100,000. But what the table does, it allows for virtual dissections. And so the way that the software is developed is what happens is they take true cadavers and they image them almost like like a dissection themselves, like slicing the different layers. And so what Dr. Robin has been able to do is use that as a tool in the classroom. So the students still engage in actual dissections too, but that tool is used on almost a daily basis in the class for the students to be able to see the reality of situations and to, they no longer have to imagine like, what would happen if we removed this, or what's the difference between a small incision versus like a true cut for dissection, and what are the repercussions from that. And so yes, it's an awesome tool that we're just in year 1 of using. We actually were in conversations just yesterday with Dr. Robin to model it for our whole department so that all science teachers could have exposure to it, and then to think about if there were ways that we could start to incorporate it perhaps into some of the biology classes too. But it is as state-of-the-art as you can get. And Dr. Robbins' excitement when he initially wrote the grant, and then like his excitement and anticipation wondering if the grant would be provided, and then actualizing it. He did a training this summer, so he has done a lot of behind the scenes work to prepare himself, and his excitement is just as strong today as when he initially found out that he was going to be able to have this tool, and I know the students have absolutely loved it. He displayed it, he showed it off at back to school night, and then parents who were walking by the room without students in anatomy and physiology were like, how does my kid get into that class? So it's absolutely awesome, and it's one of those prime examples of how tools can just enhance the learning. The class itself, I think students loved before, but that without question, it is taking it to the next level. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
Or is it updatable? Like
Yes.
yeah, that's what I thought.
And he can
Okay.
get new, like new people.
Yes.
So like with
Yeah.
different diseases, because
Yes.
we were, of course, the parents were like, we have a lot of questions.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, and like cancer, I mean, different diseases, all that.
Yes.
And he said some medical schools don't even have it.
Right,
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
some colleges don't have access to anything like this. So
Yeah.
it's really
It's incredible. I was like,
impressive.
can we take your class?
Yeah, and definitely thank you, WEF. I don't know if we have some
Yeah.
WEF people
Yeah.
here for sure.
Yes.
It's a full
I'm
year
just
course.
curious if there's so much buzz, as much excitement as is this table
Yeah.
in this room,
Yeah.
will you be able to get the students all in that class, the seniors?
So that is a great question.
Because this is the first year?
No, so it's the first year with the table.
With the table.
Right.
But the course has been around. Historically, I have pretty much been able to place almost 100%, if not 100%. Sometimes there's conflicts with the singleton, so a student has to make a choice. Okay, like I'm going to take the AP biology if there's a conflict there. But historically, I have been able to. I will say also historically, we've offered between 2 and more recently 3 to even 4 sections of the course. I am curious to see where numbers land after this buzz and excitement in terms of what students are interested in taking next year. Yeah. Great question.
Other questions?
Thanks.
Great,
Thank you very much, and please reach out if something comes up after the fact. Have a great day, enjoy the weekend, thank you.
Okay, we have, I see Joanne Grant has just walked in.
Right on cue, right?
Right on cue.
Story of my life.
Director of our Fitness and Health Department, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I feel like we discussed the fact that this was going to be videotaped, but then when you see that through the door, you're like, oh, wow, anybody can watch this at any time. Here we go. So first of all, thank you to all of you that are here in person today. I'm sure that you were really excited to hear all about fitness and health, so I'm ready to talk about our program. So I'm Joanne Grant. I'm the Director of Fitness and Health. I'm in my 15th year here, and I'm really excited to share with you about our program. So first, I just thought that I would just start with doing what we do best, which is engage you like a little physically. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you stand up, but raise your hand for me if you work in a job or in a position, or if you do something during the day where you are literally sitting at your desk or sitting somewhere without moving between 7:30 and 2:30, and you never get up. So raise your hand if you never get up. So 4 people raise their hand. Raise your hand if you can recall in any way, shape, or form if PE or gym, as some people call it, but we like to call it phys ed or fitness, was your favorite subject when you were in elementary school. Raise your hand if you think, well, there's only about 6 of you, but raise your hand if you think it could be the favorite subject of the high school kids. Okay, so as I considered this presentation, I was just thinking of a few points that I wanted to hit home, right? And we all know why that changes. We all know why. It's developmental, it's going through puberty, they don't want to change, all this stuff, but somehow it moves from elementary physical education is one of the most exciting, interesting, fun classes that kids like to be in. It makes its way through middle school, and then we get to high school where probably the percentage of kids that really want to be in that class is not so high, right? So our goal is to make our classes interesting and fun, to try to engage them, and I also live in the reality that I know that doesn't always happen. I have kids that come into the health class, my health class, and will literally say, Ms. Graham, I'm only here because I need to be. I'm only here because it's graduation requirement. Thank you for telling me that. I'm so glad you felt so open to tell me that. And also, I like to tell people when I get that phone call, like, what time is the varsity volleyball game today? I like to tell people that I am in charge of physical movement between 7:30 and 2:30. That's what I'm in charge of. I'm in charge of the kids getting something physical to do in those hours. If it's the volleyball game after 2:30, that's John Brown. So I thought I would talk about our program and our graduation requirements and then take some questions at the end, like we're supposed to. So we, to be in compliance with the state law, we require one course each year for all the students. Do some students take 2? Yes. Do some students take 3? Yeah. Those are the kids that I loved phys ed when I was in elementary school, and I still love it. But it's not that often, but they can do it. Freshman year, we have an introduction to fitness class, and there are 3 main goals of that class. The first one is to get those students into all areas that we teach in. And specifically by that, what I mean is they go in the fitness center, they go in the gym, they go outside, and they go in our dance studio / multi-purpose room. So the idea is that we want kids to catch something that they can physically latch on to, something physically that they can do for the rest of their life in one of those spaces: outside, gymnasium, dance studio, or the fitness center. The second goal of that class is to train every freshman in this building to safely use the fitness center. Okay, we do that also in the middle school, but because we know that lots of students don't come here till high school, we catch those kids freshman year, and we also have a plan to train them if they don't come freshman year. All the teachers are trained, and I'll get emails from school counselors or stuff to go in with the students and to train them if they're not freshmen. And the third reason for that class is to introduce them to the courses that they can choose from as juniors and seniors. I cannot tell you how many of my Job-alike colleagues will say, Joanne, how did Wellesley do it? How do you have an elective program in your program? Because lots of other schools have it planned out for them. So we are very lucky that as juniors and seniors, your students, your children can choose, for the most part, what they want to take. Okay. The only way to make that 100% possible, if I had every teacher on every period teaching everything we offer, so sometimes that does not happen. I just want to make sure I say that. So for example, I might have 2 sections of Power Up, which is the self-defense class, and if it just doesn't fall where your child is available, they might not get into that. But the idea and the theory and principle is that they could try to choose one of our electives as juniors and seniors. So that's the third reason for the intro class. So all freshmen have to take that intro class. Sorry, I feel like I'm getting really hot. My face is turning. Like, I have my nice cozy sweater on, but I am getting hot in here. All freshmen have to take that intro class. Then sophomores take a health class. This is our one and only health class that they take. Students in Wellesley get comprehensive health in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and 10th grade. After 10th grade, we don't have any other health class, but this is why it's so comprehensive that it is a semester-long course. So those are the 2 requirements. Then moving on into junior and senior year, they sign up for one of those electives that we have. They only have to take 1 class of it, so that is, it's either a quarter class if they sign up during what we call the color blocks, or if it's an AM class, it is a full semester class, because there's a difference between coming 3 out of the 7 and 5 out of the 7. So the classes that we teach in those areas are designed, as I said, they're designed to appeal to what the students are interested in. If there's a student who is interested in working out in the fitness center, strength training, using equipment, the cardio equipment, that child would sign up for fitness center workout. If there's a student who, I love phys ed, like your stereotypical physical education class of like offense and defense, winning and losing, running around and moving vigorously, is sports ed. So that is sports education. If there's a student who is competition adverse, we recommend adventure. The adventure program is grounded in experiential education, group dynamics, group problem solving. It culminates in climbing, but I think the biggest thing I wanted to say is it's not just climbing. They do all these group games and stuff, and so for kids who don't want to be competitive, I would recommend adventure. And then we also have other classes in the dance studio. We just started a dance program. So we have Dance 1. We have self-care for the student, which they do movement with some yoga and some breathing and some meditation, and they do mindful walking, but it really is focused on kind of identifying like kind of what's stressing you out right now, what do you need, and it's self-care, like journaling, visualization, things like that. That's what they do in that class. And then the last class we have is fitness yoga, which is medium movement, I would say. They work on learning all the different positions, and then that class ends in the students doing a project of creating and then teaching to the rest of the class a whole routine of yoga for like 10 or 15 minutes. So I think that's everything. We also have adapted physical education, and we have physical education for the Cornerstones program, and those are two programs that we offer for the services that students might need on their IEP. So I'm anticipating a lot of questions like I had last year, so let's just start. If I didn't cover, yes, how are you?
Has there been any discussion about, so if your student is an athlete and they are constantly working out for 3 seasons and then they have to take an elective as well, has there ever been any conversation about kind of balancing that somehow?
Always.
Okay.
Always. Every day, every second, every minute. Joanne, can you come in for a meeting? Always.
Okay, cool.
And I just want to say, I was anticipating that question because I get it all the time. So here's what I'd like to share with all of you. I'm in my 35th year of teaching. I have been very lucky to teach in all of those places where physical education is mandated during the day. And I say that I'm lucky for that because I feel very strong, but maybe I'm not the right person to ask this question because I'll get on my soapbox, but I feel very strongly that kids should have movement during their academic day. And our professional organizations feel that way as well. Have schools adopted programs or protocols where they allow students who are athletes to be exempt from PE? Yep, yes, many have. Many are still holding on, just like Wellesley. And I'd like to say that I feel that that's because they understand the benefit of moving during the day. I also want to add on that although I just shared I'm in this discipline, I am also a mother of 2 kids who are currently in college, and I want to share how that relates to this. I have a son who played baseball, basketball, football, is now playing football in college. I have a daughter that did lacrosse, field hockey, soccer. If given their druthers, they would have just wanted to be in those sports. My football playing son went kicking and screaming into his mandated phys ed class where he did yoga and Pilates and breathing exercises, and only after said, "Mom, I never would have signed up for that. I never, if you asked me, would I sign up for that, I would have said no." But since the school that my kids go to mandated that, he came back and said, I'm really glad I did yoga. And now, by the way, we're doing yoga in college. Our coach is making us do it. So I understand the struggle, and I understand as a parent, and I understand because it's come my way every day, every second, all the time. We talk about it in many meetings, but I really do feel it's important. And if any of you are in the room, in the medical field, or aware of this, right? Our kids are not getting more exercise, they're getting less and less and less exercise. They might go for 3 hours after school to their practice, but they're on their phones, they're on their computers, they're staying up late at night, they're on the soon-to-go TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I think that if you have a program, as we do, that says we value this and we think it's important, And sometimes kids don't know what they don't know. And we're gonna put it in the school day and hope that we have a child like my son and daughter that said, I'm glad we had to do that.
So I want to be clear that I don't think you shouldn't make them. I think that there needs to be a little more guidance with the students so that I'll pick on Bridget. She's like, well, 11th grade, I'm sitting and riding the bike and fitness. And I'm like, well, maybe you should have taken a yoga class. Like, I think maybe just more guidance, like with I don't know, I know it maybe, because I agree that they do need to move during the day. And I think it's super important. I don't think she needs more cardio. And so like, just as we place emphasis on putting them in the right science and English classes, I just would like to make sure that, and I'm not saying you're not doing that, I think it's on the students too, that when we're looking at it, I think it's just as important to say like, oh, Bridget, you are a runner, it would be really great, like make her take, like not make her, but just like these are the suggestions for you, because I think that she should be moving during the day. I just think that their time, I think a lot of the kids are like, well, I have like AP this and AP that, and I'm just gonna sit on the bike and study while I'm, I'm not saying that I'm just trying to think of like, if we're gonna do it, because I don't think it should be taken away actually, can we just maybe try to guide them a little bit more in some way? And I don't even know what that means, but I just think that they should be moving.
Yeah, so I don't have the perfect answer for that, but I can address that. I have heard that before, and yes, thank you. We do two things. Freshman year, when the kids are in the intro class that I was talking about, all of the teachers talk about the courses that we offer. And then I have a high level of confidence from all my years here that the school counselors also will talk to the kids about, okay, like this is your type of personality. Maybe you consider power up. Maybe you could consider yoga. But again, I want to get back to, in theory, that's what we want. In practice, given the schedule, it might not happen. Like she might have been put in a fitness center workout because whatever, she wanted to take something else that was only offered one block and she couldn't. So, but I am constantly working with Meg and her team. I will make a schedule every year, and Meg might come back to me and say, you know what, Joanne, there's a high cohort of students that want to take Power Up Green Block. Can you, I'm just giving an example of how, can you consider putting it, can you move it from red block into green? So we try as much as possible to address that. Do we still end up with students that are in a class, they might be like, oh, yeah, it does happen.
Can I chime? So sometimes our happiest accidents are when we actually have to say, have a kid in dance who didn't want dance, and then ends up, as you were talking about your own children, right, realizing that although I wouldn't have chosen that for myself, wow, I'm really glad I did that because I learned a new skill. Because typically students are going to be targeting the classes that they feel most familiar with or comfortable with, and the way our schedule is, it's great that we have all these options. The options also make it trickier that it's going to work. So again, that happens naturally, that students might be placed in a class they didn't pick but are happy to have taken.
Right.
And the
Maybe
opposite,
it's more from the guidance.
the opposite, yeah, does happen. Yeah. Yep.
Because I know you all do know the kids.
Yes. I'm going to interrupt for a sec so we can move on. Are there any other questions we can get to?
Please reach out to me, or anybody at home watching this can reach out to me, email, and I'm happy to answer your questions or come up with a solution or meet with you about anything. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You ready?
Okay, up next we have our math department.
Hi. So, I know this is filming. So Rich is one of my two fabulous CS computer science teachers, and he has to teach in 2 minutes. So he's going to really quickly, you just have to stand there. He's going to really quickly tell you about the CS offerings, and then I'll take over from there.
All right, I'll be quick. We have 5 different CS courses that we offer, starting with Exploring Computer Science is the one that students can take that never had any CS experience. That's open to students from 9th through 12th grade. If a senior discovered they wanted to try CS, they can definitely take that. There's also a semester elective called Python programming that's open to students who've either taken ECS or some computer science in middle school. So you'll get mainly 9th and 10th graders in that course, but again, that's open to juniors and seniors as well. And then we have 2 different AP courses. AP Computer Science Principles is a full year. It's open sophomore year on up. We just ask that students have taken either ECS or Python prior to taking that. And then junior year, there's AP Computer Science A, which is mostly a Java programming class. Again, most students will take AP Computer Science principles before that, or if they have a lot of other coding experience, they can also take it then. And then we have a senior course that started this year called Advanced Computer Science Topics. That's a semester-long honors course for kids who took AP CSA as juniors. So I just taught that class for the first time. It was a fun group to work with. It's just mainly college-level content. Just on a high school course to really get them exposed to different things before they go to college. So, any questions?
That was really fast.
But,
I might be able to answer some too, but.
yeah, lots of different offerings, and if you guys need anything of interest, exploring computer science is a great place to start. Great.
Well done.
All right.
And away we go. There we go. So I'm Elisa Morris. I'm the head of the math department. I'm going to keep a copy for myself so I remember what I wrote on this. Following Joanne, I want everybody coming out of high school, middle school, elementary school, college, not saying I'm not good at math or I hate math. Like that to me is a death blow. So we want kids to love some aspect of math. We have many changes in the department happening next year, which is why I put them all on this handy little reference sheet. First, the easy ones, we are renaming Intermediate Algebra CP to be more accurate. It is now just going to be called Algebra 1 CP. We are renaming all of the advanced algebra courses to just be called Algebra 2, which is more consistent, and that's what internally we've been calling it for decades, so now we're just going to make it official. It is Algebra 2. We are restructuring our discrete math course, and it will be reconfigured as applied mathematical modeling, also at the ACP level. It is a senior course, and it is meant to sort of look at mathematics as a tool for decision making, which is kind of cool. And we're offering a brand new course next year, which temporarily, because I goofed on the name, my fault, is being called Foundations of Calculus and Statistics. A year from now, it's going to be Fundamentals of Calculus and Statistics, which I goofed in the typing. It is a senior level course, so it will be seniors only. You will need pre-calculus because we will be introducing calculus topics. You will need pre-calculus at the ACP or honors level to enter it. You cannot take it concurrently with calculus honors or statistics AP, because some of the topics are just like taking two of the same at the same time. But it will be a year-long course that will just give the overarching introduction to calculus. So if you just want to taste, but you don't want to commit fully to the meal, I don't know where I came up with that, but thanks. Then that could be a course for you or for your student. So otherwise, everything is staying the same in terms of courses. The infamous math flowchart I got rid of because it was getting way too unwieldy and way too difficult. So when the program of studies for next year launches next week, if you go to the math page, there will be a link to a slideshow that has 4 different flow path chart things, one for each transition. So one from grade 8 to 9, one from 9 to 10, one from 10 to 11, one from 11 to 12. So in looking at, it's like, this is so much easier. It's still kind of a convoluted mess, but it's clearer, I hope. If not, let me know, I'll take feedback. But otherwise, our courses remain the same. We added Algebra 1 at the high school at the ACP level this year, which has been very, very successful and is really giving kids a much, we feel, stronger base in order to then be successful geometry, Algebra 2, pre-calculus. So we're excited for the changes for next year. Questions? I can also potentially answer some CS questions. Although it's not my expertise, but
If a student takes calculus AB their junior year, can they take BCC?
no. The two courses are ultimately 90% the same, so it would just be a repeat. Yeah.
Same with honors calc, right?
Same with honors calc, right. Reachable by email or by phone, in the hallway, downstairs, wherever, please reach out, love having conversations, especially about that.
Lisa, can I prompt one that maybe?
Sure.
You started with, I'm not, you want to get rid of I'm not good at math?
Yes.
Can you talk philosophically, because that's who I am, but like, talk philosophically a little bit about how does the math department approach that concern? Because that does come up, like, I was
Yeah,
one of
it
those
comes up
kids,
daily.
right? Yeah, so, no, and I've heard you talk about this before, so I think it'd be valuable for people to hear that.
So I think, so I will speak specifically to how I try and teach it with my students, because I don't want to speak for anybody else. But for somebody to just say blanketly, you know, I don't like something, I hate something, I'm not good at it, I seriously doubt that on so many levels. So I try and have a conversation with the student in particular or the class, and we sort of weed into what is it that's making them say that, because it's usually, I got a bad grade on something. We all get bad grades, we've all had them at some point in time, doesn't mean that we're bad at something, maybe means we just need a little bit more work in this area, but to just say, I'm not doing math, I'm never gonna study it again, whether you like it or not, you're doing math every single day of your life. Whether you're keeping your bank account, whether you're going grocery shopping, whether you're in your car and you're trying to figure out, can I turn left before this other car comes? You are internally doing calculations of whether or not your speed is going to beat that speed and if you can actually get out. It's called calculus. So you're doing it every day whether you know it or not. Right? So you're doing it. Yeah, if you're trying to figure out, you know, if you're an athlete and you're trying to figure out how to best your speed or your reps or you're doing math. Even if you're trying to figure out, plan a trip, what's the best route to get somewhere, or you're trying to figure out how to read a graph in a newspaper and make sense of it, or make sense of data that's coming at you and people are making claims about it.
How do you pay for college?
How do you pay for college? Right. How do you pay, yeah, like how do you pay for an apartment? How do you do an auto loan? How do you do, like all of this? You do math on a daily basis. And I think we all forget that sometimes. You may not be the world's greatest calculus integrator. That's okay, because you can do other things, you can think critically. That's what makes us happy. So we just don't want kids to shut down and not give themselves credit for what they are doing.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Calculus of driving sounds like the next.
Board selection.
Driver's ed.
There you go.
What's the difference between honors calculus and AP calculus?
So we have two AP calculus courses, AB and BC. So calculus itself is considered like a 3-year course. There's Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3. Calc 3 is sometimes called multivariable calculus. So BC calculus covers all of 1 and most of 2. If you are very successful in that course, and when you get to college, you're going to go into Calc 3. AB covers 1 and not 2. Or not just a little bit, you'd probably go into a Calc 2. Calc Honors is going to not finish enough of it, but give you an introduction so you could do a full Calc 1 course in college and be prepared and ready to go.
Calc 8.
There you go. That's it. Email, call. You got questions? happy to have conversations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks for coming, yeah.
Tim's up.
Okay, up next, Tim Egan, our department head for world languages.
Good morning, everyone.
Sorry.
Excuse me. Sorry. Well, thank you to Elisa because I just learned based on her driving analogy that I am a calculus genius, which I did not know before.
Knock on wood, Liz.
Yeah, seriously.
So, I have a few notes here to talk to you about. Most of you probably know that we offer 5 languages that are a continuation of the middle school languages: French, German, Latin, Mandarin, Chinese, and Spanish. You may or may not know that K to 12, we are what we call a proficiency-oriented, performance-based program. And you may have noticed that the way we teach languages perhaps looks very different from how you might have learned languages if you learned languages in a school in the US, right? We're very focused on building real-world communication skills in all modes of communication. And that is the primary reason that we have combined courses in terms of levels, honors, and ACP courses. And I get not a lot of questions, but a few questions annually about what is that about, what does it look like? So first, the rationale of why we do it. Language acquisition doesn't happen differently for a person who chooses to do ACP credit than it does for a person choosing honors credit, right? Those are personal choices around workload, language precision, and things like that. But there's no science that says an instructor should approach planning of an ACP course differently than planning of an honors course in terms of how we provide what we call comprehensible input in the language and how students process that language and then begin to develop language skills. The distinction in honors and ACP in our department is in the rubrics. And you can look, if you look on the program of studies, you can see the essential skills and the standards described in the program of studies, and you can see the distinctions in the honors rubric and in the ACP rubric. A lot of times it has to do with language precision, use of vocabulary, doing what we call leveling up, and students in our program are pretty familiar with that language of leveling up. And so that also leads to a distinction in how we do recommendations and course selection. There's some confusion every year on the part of students and some families, but by and large it's fairly smooth. And if you find yourself in that time of course selection and feeling confused, please reach out to me and I can help walk you through it. So here's what happens differently in our department. Teachers conference with each student. They're short conferences. There's a Google form. The teacher fills out a Google form and says, I think Meg Wallenden should do Spanish 3 ACP next year. Meg responds to that Google form, which is routed to all the appropriate people, and says, I want to do Spanish 3 honors next year. In the course selection process, Meg only has one option for Spanish 3, and it's the honors section. That has to do with our ability to just build a school-wide schedule that fits most kids' needs. When we break the sections, it's more complex to get the courses across every content area, that we get a higher percentage of kids getting the courses they ask for when we do it this way, across the board. And so that's important for us, right? And so once they've selected the Spanish 3 honors, later in the spring, the counselors will receive a spreadsheet that includes the teacher recommendation and the student selection, and they will make the change based on the student selection. So there's not this formal override process like there is in some other departments, right? Students make the choice. In the fall, there's lots of conversation about the distinction between the levels, and kids can always make a change in the fall. They can always start out with honors and say, this isn't working for me. As teachers, we can give them feedback and say, have you considered the ACP level? What I found in language programs is there are kids who might not otherwise have chosen honors, but they stick with honors and they challenge themselves and they get enough feedback that they know, here's what I need to do to reach the honors level work. There are kids who are getting Bs in honors where they might be getting a B+ or an A- or higher in ACP, and they choose to stick with honors anyway. And I say that's great, because I'm happy that students are making their own decisions and that we're empowering them to do that and navigating it with them.
Can I jump in about just timeline? You, family students, you all get a verification of the courses selected in early June, and we're working, but I am not, because of some technical issues, I think the language changes, if a student does not want honors, it will actually come in July. Though we're working on tweaking that, so at the start of the year, then Power School, when Power School opens in August, you'll see that that has been changed. I'm not sure we're going to be able to reflect it on the June report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. A couple of new courses or newer courses in the department. AP Chinese. Now it's been on the books for a couple of years. We've maximum had 2 students request it, and so that's obviously too low a number to be able to run AP Chinese, but it is on the books if students are looking to do that. And then a 2-year sequence of a heritage language course for Spanish speakers, which has been very successful. And the nice thing about that is you can weave that in. There are students who are heritage speakers who weave that in with other Spanish courses in our program or other language courses in our program and still go into the advanced placement route as a senior. So there's no, it doesn't track you one way or the other, it gives you options. And so those are on the books for anybody who may have a child at home who is a heritage speaker of Spanish. We're hoping to try to do that down the road with Chinese, and it's a matter of budgeting and staffing and predicting that we might have enough students who might be interested in that. So we're hoping to have that on the books in the next, I would say, 2-3 years. Finally, Seal of Biliteracy. Have you all heard of the Seal of Biliteracy by now? There were, in the beginning years, it was something very new and we were having to explain it a lot, right? We have the highest number of applicants for the Seal this year that we've ever had, which is really exciting. We're looking to try to increase it every year. There are seniors taking language who I think when I listen to them could easily attain the Seal of Biliteracy yet haven't applied for it. And so I'm always curious why that's the case. And so the deadline has passed this year. We're in the middle of testing at this point, but if you have 9th, 10th, 11th grader, or even younger, right? I encourage you to encourage them to consider the Seal of Biliteracy. What questions do you have? Yes?
Where do the students find out about this Seal of Biliteracy?
So there is, every year we send several notifications home, right? And it's in that giant jumble of all the information that comes at you online, right? There's a K-12 newsletter that goes out to everyone. Seniors get notification through school email. There's school messenger notifications. And then on the Friday announcements, there are also notifications. In addition to that, the elementary newsletter and middle school PTO meetings, although I don't think I attended last year. And so there is lots of information that goes out. And we find kids are overwhelmed with information, so we have to keep sending it out and out, right? Because they don't necessarily intentionally ignore it, but I know when I get home from work and I have 15 emails in my personal email account, I don't want to read any more emails, right? So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Only 15.
Yes.
I have an 8th grader incoming who took Spanish all through the elementary, from K through 5th, and then has been doing Mandarin.
Okay.
But was wondering, like, how would if he wanted to pursue Spanish
Yeah.
again, what level would he start at, and is it possible to do both languages or not really?
It's very possible to do both languages. Sometimes as a 9th grader, the scheduling is a little harder to fit 2 languages, not impossible, but a little trickier, but there are lots of students who do 2 languages. As far as coming back into Spanish after 3 years from not having it, what I recommend every year we do, we send a team of high school teachers down to the middle school and do placement assessments, primarily for heritage speakers. So, but if there's somebody in that boat, what I recommend is they talk to their school counselor at the middle school and tell them that they're interested in the placement assessment when it's happening. We're trying to do it for the Wednesday half day in March, but we're waiting on lots of moving parts to confirm that date. But all the middle school counselors and language teachers and everybody else will know when that's going to happen, and we can do a placement test. It's like a 5-minute oral interview with the teacher and a writing sample. So it's not this really big formal test, right? Yes?
So for the ACP versus honors within, like, say, Spanish 1, they choose it in May or June, and you do a thing in June, and you do a thing in July, but do you do another choice
Yes, so,
during the
yes, so thank you for that, because I have to clarify that. The 8th grade is a similar process, but we don't ask them to make the actual choice, ACP versus honors, until they come to the high school and experience the course with the teacher. So they don't have to, so they'll register for essentially Spanish, Chinese, French 2 honors in their 8th grade year. Then in September, they'll work with their language teacher and they'll make the choice. Because we don't feel like the 8th graders have enough information to have to make that choice on their own, and we find that it's confusing for them, so we'd rather have them just hold off, and in September we work with them in the classroom to make sure they understand the distinctions, because it's also brand new for them.
What about for the higher grades?
For the higher grades,
Like, if someone was saying, oh, I'm going to do Spanish 2 honors,
Yeah.
and then it's not going well, or they have too many other things,
Yes.
and they want to drop down, can they do that in November, October?
they can always drop down. Yeah, any point of the year, there's no deadline for dropping down to ACP.
And
There's a deadline for moving from ACP to honors.
am I understanding that they don't have to change their schedule? They would still do the same
Correct.
classroom?
Right, so I teach Spanish 3 this year, and I have, Meg is taking honors and Jamie's taking ACP, and they're sitting next to each other and working together, right? Some of the assessments look a little different, like when there's a reading assessment, there'll be sometimes there are different kinds of questions that are geared towards what we believe to be, the appropriate reading level to test at, but it's always the same article. There's some of the questions might differ than the rubrics. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thomas?
All
I
right,
think
up
you're up.
next, Tom Carter from Visual Arts. It's on.
How are you? Thank you all for staying put. You have a lot of information today. I promise you I will not be as complicated.
There you go.
All right. This is from the district webpage, not the high school webpage, but it is our visual arts webpage. And you can find everything, what we offer and everything, by clicking on the high school. You can also find this in the program of studies, however, it won't be as fun and beautiful as this is, having things animated and showing you the different things your child can produce in any of our classes, right? And you can, if your child wants to pick us by what we look like, they can do that. Just don't show them my picture, because they know that, like, who's this old man? So anyway, I'm Tom Carter. I'm glad to meet you all. I'm the director of Wellesley Public Schools. I also have live here. My kids went through the whole K through 12 system, so I know what it's like, and I know how course selection can be, and it can be hard. It's not an end all to be all. It is a start, and if you look at it as a start, I think you'll be fine. Art is not required, unfortunately, at high school. I wish it was. And we're a little different, that we do not have levels. Your child, whether they're an amazing gifted artist or whether they're struggling to draw a circle, will be in a class all together. And we enjoy that, we love that, because I think it helps the kid see that anyone can do it, anyone can grow, anyone can make progress in it. And unlike math, and I love math, and I love Alyssa, I'm not going to knock on math, but math has a right or wrong answer. Art doesn't. And that helps teach your kid problem solving and self-efficacy, which is why I want your child to be in at least one art class. Because they learn that to problem solve can be hard, but it can be cool. If you ask one of my students, what's the one thing Mr. Carter says all the time that you don't ever want to hear again, it will be like, the museum is full of masterpieces with thousands of mistakes. But we don't know it. And that's the beauty of art. You work with that mistake to make it work. Yes, you work with it in math to get it correct, but it may take a little bit of water. And I think especially if you have a child who's maybe struggling in school with things like that, with being, self-reliant and all that, please have them take an art class, because they'll learn that. We really work with all our students to do that. They help each other, they teach each other. And it can be a little strange at first for maybe a 9th grader to know the person sitting next to them is in 12th grade. But believe me, that 12th grader is much more worried about being in class with the 9th graders than that. And it's fascinating. It's also another way to make the school be a little bit smaller, because they're seeing other kids in other areas. Where we differ than a lot of the other schools, we have quarter classes, semester classes, and year-long classes. The beauty of quarter classes is, especially for freshmen, if they come in and think they need 2 study halls or directed researches and they find out they don't, they have a quarter that they can, of that semester, that they can take an art class if there's an opening. They also can try out. I would tell, if I had my way, everyone would have to take drawing and painting to graduate, because it's such a fundamental skill and can help you in so many things, whether you can draw out an ad on a napkin or a table chart or whatever. But I'm not in charge. You could take a quarter drawing and painting, and they could learn. And maybe they're like, maybe I want to take the wheel. Everyone loves the ceramics wheel. That's a quarter-based class. So they could take 4 art classes their first year here. They probably don't have space in their schedule to do that, but they could. Then after you take a quarter class, you can then take the next level of that class. Like if you took wheel, you would take advanced wheel, and it's a semester long. All our classes meet like every other class 5 times. Then if your child really thinks that they love ceramics and wants to continue in it, they can apply to be in what we call our intensives, which are a year-long class. Generally, it's for juniors and seniors. It is honors credit. It's our version of AP. However, there's not a test, an AP test that goes with it. AP art is brutal. I wouldn't wish that on you, your student. I did it, and that ruined my art career. So, because you have to produce so much. that's the other thing about art classes is we can tailor our assignments to your student. So in, like, for example, in my printmaking class, not all students do every project. Some students may really get into carving and want to do a really intricate linoleum cut. I have the joy, because the state doesn't tell me what I have to teach, that that child can spend more time on it while everyone else goes on and starts silk screen. Then they'll come to do silk screen. So that's how we work. We're the only high school, well, one of 3 public high schools that still has medals. So thank you very much for supporting us in that way, and that's a great thing, especially if you have a possible engineer who likes to construct things. Medals is great. We're the only high school that has a standalone printmaking course and a standalone artist books, which we call art books and creativity class. We do have both hand building and wheel throwing. They've had a great experience in 8th grade if they took ceramics with Miss Lau, and everyone's so excited to get on the wheel. The wheel's a lot of fun. We have drawing and painting. We have animation, which you see there, which has become extremely popular. We still have digital arts. We have drawing and painting. We have TV video. So if your kid is at all want to be a broadcaster or interested in TV production, do that. Now those courses are semester long, not a quarter long. We're still working on that. And did I leave? And then evolutions is also there is a component of evolutions that is art that kids take in their junior year. And I think I got everything there. Yeah. So there are no lab fees. At one time there used to be lab fees for art. They're not. I think you do everything. And I have to tell you, normally the art department goes on a trip overseas every year. So it's always announced usually in April or May. If you have someone who's going to be a 9th grader next year, it's advertised again in the fall. And if there's space, 9th graders can go, and they do go. We have been to China, we've been to Morocco, we've been to Italy, France, Croatia. It's great, and it's I love it because I've kept informal tabs. 90% of the kids who go on our trips go abroad in their one semester in college because they can see they can do it, and you can survive not knowing the language. They see me getting around in Italy without knowing Italian. They're like, okay, I can do it. Right. Any questions? Oh, we also have clubs. There's a ceramics club, a photo club, a drawing and painting club. Your child does not have to be in an art class to be in a club. So by chance, if they have a schedule like first semester and they wanted to get in photo and beginning photo was full, they can come to photo club. This year it's on Wednesdays or whatever, so they don't have to be in that. That's really important to do. And what I would tell you, what you can do to encourage your child is have them do it. Have them draw. Have them put down that phone, that iPad. Even, yes, they can draw on an iPad and create on an iPad, but there's something about the physicality of doing it on a piece of paper that is just amazing. I'm not asking them to make masterpieces. However, if your child wants to go on to art school, we also embrace that and encourage that. This year we have kids already accepted into RISD, Pratt, Parsons, Fashion Institute, Brown, and Harvard. Yes, Harvard. Now they're not going to Harvard for art, but their portfolio got them in there because they talked about their portfolio, and the administrator or the admissions officer saw this passion this kid had for something. They're like, that's what we want at Harvard. So that's why your kid needs to take a hard class. Not necessarily go to Harvard. They have that passion. Okay.
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure at all. Any questions? Oh, come on, I wasn't that good. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you go to the middle school to kind of give this pitch, or I can't remember how it works for the transition, like the course selection. Yeah. Did the high school teachers go over there? Because I have a child who loves art, but
right.
Is sort of embarrassed at how stunted he got.
Right.
And I know maybe he would like to do this, but it's so unforgiving because
the hard.
Well, can I jump? So this year, since COVID kind of shut everything down that we were doing in person, is that our 8th grade caregiver night next week will include all of the
Yeah.
department heads, and although that is
yeah.
for parents, when the students come, they'll go on tours of the building, they'll see the different areas, and we're going to record that night, so students can watch that night as well.
Yeah, I just really love that messaging around, you know, with the drawing, especially with the drawing, and but also just the forgiveness of
Their
it.
teacher, if they're in 8th grade art this semester, their teacher will encourage them and tell them everything we have. When I go over there second semester and talk to classes, it's second semester, and so it may not have everyone. And you know, an 8th grader looking at an old man's like, yeah, right, thank you. we tried. But everything that's offered at the middle school is also offered here plus more. We don't have TV video, but we do have photography as well this year. We also have digital photography here, which starts like the second year of photography. And then you can do either wet or digital. But please, please, I'd love to have your child. Have them encourage it. It just makes, it's also a break in this crazy day they have here. The school's an amazing, very supporting place. But there's really something different about my staff sitting down and talking to your kid about like why they made that mark, what they want to do with it. Sure, go for it. To do it, make it, you know. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right?
That's why Tom's the K-12 director, so the philosophy at the middle school is the same as the philosophy.
Yeah.
Same directors.
We're hoping to get 8th grade teachers to be able to do a recommendation.
Yeah.
Right? But that's a power school issue. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
And anytime you have any questions while you're here now. Oh, one thing I will tell you, course selection can be real important because if your child needs to change like a math level, it can unfortunately bump them out of their elective. Because the elective programs, I don't have 5 teachers who teach drawing and painting, so the options for them to go in when they have to move. Okay. But then they can always come to drawing and painting as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't know if anybody has any residual questions. We are right on time, which is amazing. For Meg or about anything, about the process.
Obviously, the other departments will go next time.
Yes, the next meeting is Wednesday, February 12th from 10 to 11:30. Also in this room, and we will send out the schedule, but as Jamie just said, it's the rest of the departments we did not hear from today. And then the students start, I know some of you mentioned they're starting it, but they start the
Yes.
actual process shortly after
We'll
that.
have updates then about where we are in the process and a little bit more specifics about dates that come up right after break-in in March.
The next one is still in time to get the
Yes.
information before they pick their classes.
And I think, I mean, kudos to everybody who is working on this, your department in particular. The complication of this matrix and all of these classes and the blocks and levels, I can't even imagine. And the changes, and it's just, it's a
That's our
phenomenal amount of work.
April and May fun.
April and May fun, and then really the summer and in the fall.
Some people think the computer
It's
doesn't
not
help.
as easy as it might look plugging things in, but.
The computer's helpful, it cannot produce our schedule, not even close. So there's a ton of work. We get it started with the computer,
Yeah.
and then the humans get in there.
And then we fix it.
Then we fix it. Yeah. And thanks for coming
All
out.
right, thank you so much for joining us today, everyone.
Hope everybody has a nice weekend. Hope people have a